Alright, so in this briefing we're going to be discussing organelles. Organelles are essentially little organs. That's exactly what the name means. Organelle, little organs, it's the same thing. These are the components of a cell which are responsible for performing cellular functions. So let's take a look. So what kind of system is a cell? A cell is an open system. That's crucial to understanding a cell's function. Cell is an open system, which means that it's constantly interacting with its environment, exchanging nutrients, exchanging gases, exchanging any information that it needs to trade with surrounding cells. Because of this constant interaction, it's considered an open system, not a closed system which doesn't interact with the environment. Next off, we have um, what an organelle actually is. An organelle is an efficient system of many specialized parts. That's what an organelle is. They maintain life processes. So what exactly does an organelle do? Well, it's responsible for nutrient intake, such as the cell wall, which regulates what nutrients come in and out. It's also responsible for movement of the cell, such as the flagella. Growth of the cell comes from the DNA and other specific organelles. The organelles respond to stimuli from outside cells. They exchange gases with other cells, and finally, they remove waste from within the cell from substances that have already been consumed. They also are responsible for reproduction, which is known as cell division, a crucial part of the cell theory. So let's go through each and every single one of the organelles, shall we? The first one is the cell membrane and the nucleus. Then we have the cytoplasms and the cell wall. Next is the chloroplast. However, it's crucial to remember that the chloroplast exists only and only in plant cells. This is because plants need chloroplasts to produce uh, that have chlorophyll so that it can regulate photosynthesis. Then there's vacuoles and vesicles. Then we also have the endoplasmic reticulums and the ribosomes, lysosomes, and I know everyone can read, but I don't care. Golgi apparatus, and the mitochondria. The cytoplasms and cell wall are all to dilute connected, and the cell membrane and nucleus also. So let's go through each of them. Starting off with the cell membrane. The cell membrane is the protective barrier against the external environment. It surrounds the cell and it regulates the exchange of information. It allows for transport of materials in and out of the cell, and it controls what enters and leaves the cell. This is the responsibility of the cell membrane because it's on the outside. It can control what comes in, what comes out, what is allowed to regulate within the substance, and this in turn allows the cell to function properly. Next, there's also it's important for cell interaction and communication, especially when recognizing molecules. So we have many cells in our body. When they're surrounded and they're compact in tissue, it's important that the cells can communicate with another using proteins and essential biomarkers so that we can control what molecules, such as a certain gas, can come in and what molecules can go out. This is a crucial part of the cell membrane. And finally, let's recap all the parts of the cell membrane. It's a protective barrier against the external environment. It allows for transporting materials in and out of the cell, and it's important for cellular communication, so talking with other cells. This is what the cell membrane looks like essentially. We have the extracellular fluid on the outside, which I'll just point to right here. These are different proteins which are on the surface of the cell membrane. Once again, they're responsible for allowing substances to come in and out. This is known as the phospholipid bilayer. This head of this molecule right here, it's not hydrophobic. The insides are hydrophobic, meaning that they repel water, while the front heads on here and here, they like water, so they want to interact with water. This is what forms the basis of a phospholipid bilayer, a head that likes to interact with water and a tail that does not, and that's connected on both sides. These peripheral proteins allow essentially the proteins to come in and the molecules from the outside, they come into the peripheral protein and they go right through and come back out. Now let's talk about the cell wall, which exists only and only in plant cells, not in animal cells. It's a rigid layer of cellulose and one second. So it's made up of cellulose, which is the essential component of the plant cell wall. It's really strong and rigid, and it functions as protection and structural support for plant cells. Why do plant cells need this? Well, it's because plants do not have skeletons like we do. So when it has a cell wall compact and in large groups, it allows the plant to stand up straight and continue on with its daily interactions. So that's one thing that differentiates animal cells and plant cells is the cell wall, and the cell wall is only in plant cells and allows for the structural support and protection of them. Next we have chloroplasts. Chloroplasts are found in plant cells and some protists. Not all eukaryotic cells have chloroplasts, but some do, such as algae. Algae is an organism that lives in water and requires photosynthesis in order to survive. So it obviously has to have chlorophyll so that it can execute the photosynthesis. But because it's a single cell organism and it's not a plant cell, it's an animal cell. So essentially what chloroplasts do are they're holding sites for chlorophyll, giving the plant tissues the green color. So why are plants green? Why are plant tissues green? It's because of chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is also the site where photosynthesis takes place, like I said. So excuse that interruption. Let's get back to the topic. So to summarize, chloroplasts found only in plant cells but can be in some protists, such as algae. They contain chlorophyll, which is what gives any organism that has chloroplasts the green color. So this comes from the chlorophyll, and this is the site where photosynthesis takes place. Now we want to know the formula for photosynthesis. That's 6H2O, which is essentially the hydrogen 2 component of chlorophyll. So that's 6H2O plus the CO2, so you got the water and the carbon dioxide from the air. They combine with the chlorophyll and the light energy from the sun to produce sugar molecules for the plant to use and to produce oxygen to go back into the air as a byproduct. This is what a chloroplast looks like. These are the two outermost membrane layers, so it has two layers, and the stroma, which is the inside fluid, is what contains the chlorophyll. It's an intermembrane system that has many graniums, so the chlorophyll is located inside the stroma, and that is precisely where in the chloroplast the photosynthesis will take place. Now let's proceed to talking about the mother of all cells, the nucleus. The nucleus is responsible for all of the functions of the cell. It's present in both plant and animal cells, and the nucleus contains the DNA. This is the most crucial part. The DNA is located inside the nucleus. It directs all cellular activity within the cells, and it's surrounded by a protective layer known as the nuclear envelope, which has pores, so little spaces, that allow for the transport of materials inside and outside the nucleus. The nucleus has the DNA, which is the genetic material that codes for all life. So this is like a computer program that has it written what a cell has to do, how it has to execute it, when it has to execute it, and this facilitates everything inside the cell, whether it be cell growth, cell division, which is also cell reproduction, the production of proteins, production of certain amino acids, etc. Everything is embedded in the DNA, which is why it directs all cellular activity. And remember, it's in both plant and animal cells, as stated right here. The nucleolus is the part inside the nucleus, and it is the site of ribosome production. So I'll be talking about ribosomes further, but the nucleolus is inside the nucleus, and it's the part that makes all the ribosomes. Continuing on to the cytoplasm. So as you can see, the entire structure of me has changed, but that's okay. So the cytoplasm is a gel-like substance inside the cell membrane, and its role is to support and protect the cell. So how exactly does it do that? Well, it contains contents in the cell, such as the organelles, and that are suspended within it, except the nucleus. So the cytoplasm does not contain the nucleus, but it contains everything else in the cell. It's like jello, and everything else sits on top of it, or gel-like, as it says up here. Now, it's the substance inside the cell membrane that supports and also has to protect the cell. That's also an important aspect. And allows for cytoplasmic streaming, which is the connection of the cytoplasm and the division of the cytoplasm during cell division. Let's look at that further. The endoplasmic reticulums. So there's two endoplasmic reticulums, the rough endoplasmic reticulum and the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. It's a network of folded membranes that extend into the cytoplasm from the nuclear membrane. So it's a bunch of folded membranes that extend into the cytoplasm from the nuclear area, which is separate from the cytoplasm, as I stated. And this is what they look like. And it's responsible for carrying materials throughout the cell, so through the different parts. There's two, like I said, the smooth endoplasmic reticulum and the rough endoplasmic reticulum. And the rough endoplasmic reticulum contains ribosomes. Remember that. So now finally, let's talk about ribosomes. Ribosomes can exist in the rough endoplasmic reticulum only, or they're just lying around free in the cytoplasm, but they can never be free in the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. And ribosomes are the parts that produce proteins. That's the most essential component of ribosomes. Basically, all they do is produce proteins. So this diagram shows ribosome sequencing and how the protein is made from a polypeptide. Now there's the Golgi apparatus, or the Golgi body, and it's folded sacs of membrane that looks like a bunch of pancakes on top of each other. And they package, label, and inspect proteins to be transported out of the cell. So they find the proteins, they package it, they label it, what it has to say, and they analyze the protein and then ship it out to the other parts of the cell to be used. It's the site for lysosome production, so lysosomes are made in the Golgi apparatus. Now onto the mitochondria. The mitochondria is a bean-shaped organelle, as you can see here, with an internal matrix of membranes. It's the site for cellular respiration, so that's where ATP is produced, and the oxygen that we breathe in is converted into CO2 and then emitted. And it breaks down glucose molecules into water and carbon dioxide and ATP. The vacuole is a fluid sac that stores water, food, and waste. So it's basically a storage center. Plants have vacuoles, but plants' vacuoles are very large, but animals have many small vacuoles.